It's 5:31, so we are gonna call our open session to order. Our first item is public comment for closed session items only. We don't have anyone present in person for closed session public comment,
Nothing on email.
and there's nothing on email, so we'll go to our roll call, please.
Trustee Edmondson,
Present.
trustee Friedman, trustee Donnelly,
Present.
trustee Jackson Miller.
Present, thank you. All right, we are ready to convene to closed session.
Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. We're good. Showtime, we're good. Okay, all right. Great. Thanks again for bearing with us. I'm gonna call our open session back into order at 6:42 p.m. And we have the pleasure of beginning our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance led by a Santa Cruz Gardens student. And Mr. Broadhurst, would you like to introduce your student?
What indeed.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Board of Trustees and admin and members of the community, it's a great pleasure to introduce an outstanding representative from Santa Cruz Gardens. This is William Burford, and he's in third grade in Miss Rydell's class. And I think he knows what to do. So William, if you want to take it over there and lead us away when you're ready.
Please stand. Place your hand on your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now I would like to say the SoCal Union Elementary School District's mission statement. Staff, students, parents, and the community help ensure that each child develops the skills and character necessary for lifelong achievement and responsible citizenship in a diverse world.
Thank you. Thank you so much, William. I have a certificate I'd like to present to you. Is it okay if I read it out loud first and then you can come up and get it? Yeah. Oh. You can see, I'll read it and then I'll give it to you. And then if it's okay with you, we'll ask you some very friendly questions. All right. So I'll stand up too, so we're matching. The SoCal Union Elementary School District Board of Trustees Certificate of Recognition for our student pledge leader and mission statement reader, William Herbert, third grade student at Santa Cruz Gardens Elementary. William is in Miss Rydell's class, and she reports that he works hard to be kind, be responsible. William is also a big helper in the classroom and is very inclusive, always being sure to include all students. William enjoys how the recess coaches help out and how everyone is kind to each other. His favorite subjects are writing and reading. He likes to practice basketball and ride his bike in his free time. Congratulations, William. Thank you. Yeah, nice. Okay. We'd love to give this to you as our token of appreciation. And then if you're interested, we have these notebooks kind of as a thank you for coming to us. Goodie bag, goodie prize, help yourself, pick one out. If you have any siblings at home who you think should get one, you can take one for them as well. And then while you're doing that, is it okay if we ask you some questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions, Steve?
Writing, do you write stories?
I wrote one.
Good.
And I finished it last Friday.
How long did it take you to write it?
It took me about 5 days. Something like that.
Right. And who's the main character?
Main characters.
There you go. Biography already. Autobiography.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Favorite books to read?
I like reading the 13 story treehouse, the 14, the 26, and the 39.
Any questions or comments?
I heard you like to ride your bike. Do you like to ride in your neighborhood or go?
I like riding.
Yeah.
Thanks. Well, thank you so much for coming and starting our meeting off in our favorite way. We appreciate having you here. If it's okay with your family, we like to take a picture together. Totally up to your parents, of course. Is that all right? Okay. If you're comfortable with that, and we can get your principal in. I don't think I see
Right here, right up front in the
your
corner,
teacher
right
here,
here,
yeah.
great.
If you
Yep.
stand right in here.
There you go. Wait, over here first, then look over there. I know. All right, everybody smile and one, perfect. All right, everybody look that way.
Yeah.
Good, good,
Those are cool shoes.
Yeah.
Are those zippers on the side?
Yeah.
Is that one from wallet?
I unzipped those, so I don't have to untie my food.
Oh, so like.
Way to wear my.
Okay, I'm gonna look into those. Thank you so much, William. We really appreciate having you all there.
Nice meeting you, William. Awesome. Have a good meeting. Thanks. for
Thank
coming.
you. All right.
Oh, thank you.
Good night.
That was great.
Well, our next item is the adoption of the agenda. We will propose to adopt the agenda with one tiny little change on page 4 underneath adjournment. It just lists our next regularly scheduled board meeting as October 21st. That's just a little typo. It's October 12th. So I just wanted to note that change the agenda. Any other changes on the agenda? Do I have a motion to adopt it with that change? Make a motion. Thank you. Do I have a second? I'll second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Next item is report out of closed session. The board met in closed session and we have nothing to report. Next is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve and adopt the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second? I'll second. Okay, we do have a resolution, so we will take a roll call vote on that one. The GAN limit.
I was gonna say my resolution, so thank you very much.
Michelle,
Trustee Edmondson.
Aye.
Trustee Friedman.
Aye.
Trustee Donnelly.
Aye.
And trustee Jackson Miller.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, next item is public communications. As the agenda notes, in addition to speaking in person, we also have options for folks to email us if they're watching us live on YouTube. And then I'll read our little blurb that's on the agenda, but members of the audience are welcome to address the Board of Trustees during public communications regarding items not listed on the agenda. So for any item not on the agenda, we ask you to fill out one of our comment cards, our form cards available to sign and register and submit it to the executive assistant prior to the opening of the meeting. 3 minutes can be allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 20 minutes to each subject matter. The trustees cannot take action on these matters unless such matters are placed on a future agenda according to law. If the item that you want to speak on is on the agenda, you have the opportunity to speak at the time the agenda item is discussed. Please address the board president. These proceedings are video recorded and board members shall hold the education of students above any partisan principle, group interest, or personal interest. Thank you for listening to all of that. Do we have anyone here who'd like to make a public communication? Okay, I tried. Do we have any emails for public communications?
We do not.
Okay. On to standing reports. And we start with you, Michelle.
Yes,
Thank you.
good evening, board. So happy to be here tonight with a little bit cooler weather than our last meeting. Yes. Many of my agenda items later are things that I've been working on over the last couple of weeks. So unaudited actuals, we're going to have a presentation from Rob Redding from Climate Tech to give you an update on our projects. And I just would like to say, I know many of us in the room were at the Capital Art Wine Festival. That was a lot of fun. I always love the things that we get to do, like the open houses and back to school nights and things like that with community involvement. And today we meet once a month, the assistant soups of business throughout the county and the superintendents from the smalls all meet to kind of, we talk about what's going on in our world of business. And so today was our meeting. So it was really interesting to listen to what's going on with everybody. We're all kind of in the same boat with our actuals and budget and all of the changes coming down the pipe still from the governor with the proposed budget and now the cleanup language for the final adoption of the budget. And so it's always good to be able to bounce ideas off of your peers. So I appreciate those meetings. I appreciate the County Office of Education in totality. They are very shorthanded right now as well. Like everyone, they're short-staffed and they still do what they can and reach out and help us as much as they can, which is really appreciative. So that's my report out this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I will be brief. The board knows a few of the things that I've been working on. Our meeting started a bit earlier tonight. However, some of the exciting things that we're working on is one of the new grants that is associated with a state grant funding is the Extended Learning Opportunity Plan. And those are kind of an exciting time to work with the principals in the schools about how to look at students who have not met the success rate that we hope for, and provide them different kinds of support before school and after school. Every principal and school has different ways of approaching the plan, and we're seeing some real creativity emerge. So we're very, very excited about seeing some of those enhancements to the school day. The extended learning opportunity grant plans really have to account for a larger segment of the student's day. So what we have to do is we have to offer students a place to be for essentially 9 hours of each school day. And so those plans are essential in the work that we're doing in order to get those funds. So that's been very exciting, but very, very time consuming and labor intensive for everyone involved. We also have been engaging in the first steps of the SIPSA plans, which are a really heavy lift for our school sites to engage in, really looking at their funding sources and their action plans, the goals associated with, matching them to our LEA goals, which are LCAT goals. So we've spent quite a bit of time working with the principals on that part of their work, which has been pretty exciting. Now the next part of their work is really collecting data and working with their site teams and their school state councils on that. So it's a big ask, but it's always a really great product. So the board will see those pretty soon. Just with regard to some exciting things, we're continuing to partner with the County Office of Education. A couple of things on the horizon are we have a integrated FOSS science PD that's coming up on Friday. And we really wanted to take SEL, language development, environmental science, and weave that with kind of a preface to our new science curriculum. So they are going to be kicking off with our team on Friday, and then they're going to be working with us as we have our full staff development day on October 10th. So that is really great. We bought FOSS a long time ago. We really want to know how to use it more effectively. And we're also really trying to take some time and looking at some intervention and prevention materials with regard to student health and well-being. We talked a little bit about that the last time. And we're also having some really strong discussions about some of our curriculum auditing with regard to how well it's working for our students right now. So we're looking specifically at some of the math curriculum at the middle school. There will be more discussions like that. We really want to use what works, and we really want to pay attention to that. So lots of things going on. That's exciting.
Some other items that we've been working on in conjunction with principals is the comprehensive school safety plan part 2. That's one for each site. It really is the emergency management plan, the nuts and bolts of preparing for emergencies, as well as updating each site's anti-bullying plan. So those are the ones that we do annually and show the public how we proactively try to create a bully-free environment. We also produce them on large posters, so they're very visible for everybody. I want to say that I was able to go to all 4 back to school nights. So we're past the back to school night season. Many of you came. So thank you for that. And as always, I just walk away so impressed with our teaching staff in terms of the coordination. And what I walked away with is the ability to see both precision and positivity, right? So if it's just kind of a positive night, rah, oh, that's one thing. If it's all just the cold hard facts of how to prepare for the class, that's another, that's the precision. And our teaching staff really finds the sweet spot between those two things, really a welcoming environment, but also a lot of preparation on how, we as parents can best support our students in the class. So it's always very rewarding to go out and see those. And it was nice that they were all in person this year. It felt good. I've been continuing to do weekly site visits, just short check-ins, where I get to check in with each principal. Sometimes that involves, working on a project together or solving a challenge together. And oftentimes it involves hitting 2 or 3 or 4 classes. I was able to go to Santa Cruz Gardens today, for example, and we were in the living science or the living science class. Yeah. And what were they working on? I forget. I forget the scientific term. Both of us kind of learned something. I'm putting Mr. B on the spot here. It was slugs, but I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. That showed you they were working on the scientific part of it. It was really great. They had the actual snails there and they were studying them and nature journaling with them. And it was great to see that room and Miss Jade in action with the students. And so there's just always great things happening at all the schools and excellent instruction, high quality instruction. And that kind of leads to one of the other things, one of the site visits, I was able to see an author's visit that was arranged by Ann Wilson at Main Street, and they invited 4th and 5th graders over from SoCal Elementary too. So it was kind of a joint school effort. The author was Kelly Yang, who is the author of the Front Desk series. And so very exciting for students to be able to not only read a book, to meet the actual author. And she was so down to earth. She really talked about coming in, not knowing the language as a young child, and she worked at the front desk of a hotel and what her school experience was like. And so she was really able to relate to students on a level. And when she talked about resiliency, overcoming challenges in school, they were very true to her experience. So that was just great. At a SEA meeting earlier in the week, where I attended and collaborated with members of the SoCal Education Association, and I found that very positive and collaborative, and we were able to discuss issues and find mutual interest in addressing those issues. So I appreciate that opportunity on a monthly basis. A little reminder, I see some of you wore blue. I forgot because this is our opportunity to wear blue. But on October 3rd, it's the World Day of Bullying Prevention. And so we asked our students and staff who wish to participate in that to wear blue. And it's just a symbolic way to recognize all the hard work that goes on, the real work that goes on below that surface, to create schools where bullying is not a part of the environment. And so also I wanted to let you know that UCSC visits for 7th graders are back this year in person. So we find that very exciting because you just can't replicate that college experience virtually, no matter how hard you try. And so that'll be in May, later in the year, but just wanted to let you know that those are coming back in person. And finally, I just wanted to say how much I appreciated all of the volunteers who came to the Capitola Art and Wine Festival and supported our district's booth. And that harkens back to one of our previous board members, Sandy Wallace, for whom this room is named. That's something that she got us started on, and I'll say we had the most supportive and not only in terms of numbers, but in terms of positivity, the best people out there. So thank you for all that came to that, and that's all for me.
We were studying gastropods.
Gastropods, thank you, Mr. Brothers.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Get on to my next page. So our next report would be from CSEA. Do we have a CSEA report anywhere? Hi, we have a special seat for you if you want it, but you're welcome wherever you're comfortable. It's awesome.
That's quite all right. My name is Melina Wright.
Hi.
I work over at Main Street in the front office. I'm also the secretary of CSCA, and I am very happy to be here, but we have nothing to report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. Yeah.
Thank you for always being so welcoming. It's true.
Yeah. All right, next up would be an item from SBA.
Want me to get up?
No, no. Usually folks report from the table, whatever you're going anyway.
I will get up, but I would prefer not to. So my name is Krista Petroskas. I'm the rep from SoCal, and I'm here representing SEA tonight. Our state assembly candidate, Dawn Addis, visited our SEA journal meeting last week for the second time. Unfortunately, I missed it. I was at urgent care until I broke my foot. But I heard it was a really great meeting. We appreciated the opportunity to hear about her extensive background in education and ask questions. We also had a visit from trustee area 4 candidate Justin Mafia, who introduced himself to the general membership and offered to be available for ongoing communication. Thank you to Michelle Kennedy for sending out updated communication about when SEA members can expect the retroactive pay. Members, we are definitely, absolutely, without any question, looking forward to our September paycheck.
Just let me see when I got the full green light on that. That's why it came out so late because I couldn't wait to send that out.
Oh, and we are ecstatic. Thank you so much for that information. We are absolutely looking forward to congratulating our CSEA colleagues when they receive their raises as well. And finally, elementary school teachers now have been experiencing their contracted prep time and can already notice the difference in their ability to prep, plan, grade, and communicate with parents. And so we greatly appreciate the support in being able to make collaboration and prep time happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Next up would be items from trustees. I feel like I always work my way down the road. So does anyone want to randomly pop in and do a report?
I'll be random.
Yeah.
Well, I attended the New Brighton Middle School back to school night. It was great. The new rooms are well ventilated. They're nice, even some of the older parts and the new windows as they're going in and I mean, it's swatched, but it's coming together like a puzzle. And Christina and Brittany, I think you guys made a great team up on the stage, tag team. And then I went into a classroom where you guys were filling in, and I think you did a fine job together. You had my attention. So, and that's a lot to say. No, I think you did great too. And just a little side note, I know what I just dawned on me, but the first time I ever voted in an election was November of '79. I had to get my hair out of the way at the time. And honestly, I think I voted no for the gun limit because I was really opposed to Proposition 13 and 78, which was before I could vote. So I think I associated it with this, with the cap. So I honestly think I voted no for it. So anyways.
Well, I'm glad you voted yes this time.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
So I went to the Soquel Elementary and New Brighton Middle School back to school nights and really enjoyed seeing all the classroom and teachers and fun experience to just see everyone in action.
It's really been a busy 2 weeks. There's just so much activity. I just don't want to miss out. So I went to the Soquel Elementary back to school night. The Main Street Fun Fest. Ann Wilson invited me to the author visit. That was really cool. Soquel Elementary was there, Main Street was there, and my daughter loves that author, and she got to come, so that was really special. The Capitola Arts and Wines Festival, and then there was I don't know the name of it. Amanda went to it as well. It was a district meeting of other trustees. So it's just interesting to hear what's going on in other districts and to hear legislation that's coming through. And I just had a really short story from back to school night. I know a family in the dual language immersion class, and so the little girl has grown up with the grandmother speaking Spanish. At home they speak English. But she can listen, and understand Spanish, but doesn't speak it. But then she's been in the dual language immersion class, and he said she's coming home singing and asking for things in Spanish. And I just thought, wow, that's so cool. So I'm just really pleased with the things that we're doing in the district. So that's it.
That's great. Thank you. I don't want to repeat what everyone else, said. Absolutely appreciated the opportunity to be at the in-person back to school nights, and just sending out a lot of thanks and appreciation to staff for, getting busy parents and families there. It was awesome to see how well attended they all were. And then the principal presentations were great and the classrooms were amazing. So that was a pleasure. Capitola Art and Wine Festival was also great. And it's really nice that, we're out there doing good in the community with our district banner. I'll report a little more on the SUESD meeting, which is the ridiculous acronym for Santa Cruz County School Boards Association. Linda, I actually have little notes I can send to you just so you know.
I would love it.
I know that's helpful, but we had a meeting the 19th, and we had a really great legislative update that was provided by CSBA, so California School Board Association's legislative director, and his name is Chris Reef. And what's cool, Chris did a great job, and he actually happens to be a very proud alum of Santa Cruz Gardens Elementary. and New Brighton Middle School, and he attended Soquel High and then ended up graduating from Santa Cruz High. So it's lovely having that local connection to someone who's high up in terms of looking at legislation and how it affects public education. So he did a really great summary of what's been happening in the legislature this, in these recent months that's affecting public schools. So that was great. And I'm really glad you were able to attend. And then Roger Snyder from Scotts Valley School District is our current president of that group. And this group, basically there's one official representative from a board for each school district. And then other trustees can attend as well. And it's a relatively casual group where we meet every other month and check in and learn things together. So Roger from Scotts Valley shared some information on a really interesting thing called the Raise the Base campaign that's being, it's for PTAs and PTOs to advocate for raising the LCFF base. And so he's going to share some information out that, I'm interested in taking a look at. So lots going on, exciting time of year. I know we have folks here for a really important next item, so I'll stop talking and lead us into our next presentation item. I didn't miss anything, right? No. All right. So on to item 7A, which is our introduction of our SUESD New Brighton Middle School Principal, Assistant Principal, and Director of Student Services.
Awesome. This is my honor to be able to introduce this item. It was a very busy summer, a lot of change. And through having really high quality people already working in the district and also some recruitment from outside the district, everything was able to fall into place in an unbelievably effective way that best serves our students and families. And so before I get to the three folks that are listed here, I also want to thank Mr. Broadhurst. He's not on the list, but he transferred from schools, as you know, and that was another piece of the puzzle that made all of this work together. So I'm just so thankful for that. The three folks that moved somewhere kind of in a promotion sense, though, are Christina Hadrius, who moved from assistant principal to principal of New Brighton Middle School. So congratulations to Christina. Of course, that created a very important hole to fill, and we were very fortunate to find an excellent candidate from a neighboring school district, and that's Brittany Birchall. So congratulations. And we also had our Director of Student Services position vacant, and fortunately we had an amazing talented person right here in our own midst, and that is Chris Alimos, who stepped in. So I'd like to give them each the opportunity to introduce themselves, say a little bit about the background, and introduce anybody that came along with them today. So how about if we start with Christina?
I will be happy. I will bring the flowers in.
Well, thank you. So I will start by saying hello to everyone. And I just will also start with saying I don't have anyone with me tonight. My son is homesick. He's got a 102 fever. I don't know COVID, but he's just sick at home. So I left my husband at home with him to take care of him. So he's kind of sleepy all day, just that fever. So hopefully he'll be back to school the next couple of days. I guess I just want to start by saying that I mean, most of you know me for a very long time. I think Ted, you've probably known me for the longest.
I remember you going to school.
Yeah.
301 too.
Right.
A lot of kids.
I think
I remember.
I think you remember when I was waiting table and bartending and yeah, going to school.
You worked hard then.
Yeah.
And this was your goal and you're
Yeah.
there.
I'm here. So yeah, I started my journey at the school started as actually an RTI intervention teacher. And then I switched to humanities, 6th grade humanities, and I actually started our computer technology elective program here at New Brighton. And I was always wanting to do something more, just being in the classroom just for a few years. I was like, okay, I need to do something else. I want to learn something more. I wanted to learn like all aspects of the school because I knew one day that I wanted to be in this position, not necessarily at that school. I didn't know what my, path was going to be, but I knew that I wanted to lead in some way. And so anytime there was an opportunity, I just took it. If there was a coaching opportunity, I took that. A TOSA opportunity came up, I took that. If it was to teach ELD, I want to learn all about ELD, I'll take that. So volunteering, when I was a parent, I volunteered at Main Street a lot in the art docent program. I'd go on field trips. So I just wanted to learn, every aspect of the schooling.
And so when the opportunity to become assistant principal, then I became assistant principal, which is awesome. And I got to work with Craig, who's been a wonderful mentor to me over the last few years. And so I know that we were all kind of waiting for the big retirement, but he ended up going to the Garden. So he still gets to be a colleague of mine, which I'm very happy for. I haven't called you too many times, but he does say that the phone is still available. I can call him anytime if I have a question. So just, it was a little rushed that the 24 hours of, oh, we're going to just make this transition, quickly, it was supposed to be a longer transition, but it worked out great. I was able to start the year with a fabulous assistant principal, Brittany Birchall, who had a chance to come up and talk. And I just say the first few weeks have just gone off, I'd say swimmingly. We started the year in almost fully staffed, and now I can say today that we are fully staffed, which is just wonderful. We have a teacher in every one of our classrooms. We have 2 campus supervisors. We have all of our front office staff, fabulous instructional aides, our librarian. So we are just very fortunate to be starting the year as we are this year compared to last year, where it was just a little bit more hectic with, being understaffed and COVID and everything. So I just feel really fortunate. We've started off with positive behavior intervention. We started off with great assembly for our students. Our teachers are reinforcing the expectations in all their classrooms, and then all of the supervisors and Brittany's knows she's jumped right in there too to be a supervisor during lunch and break. We have all of our zones covered, which is just wonderful. It's really cut down on possible behaviors, and so we've been really lucky there. I look forward to just continuing to lead this amazing community and to partner with our teachers and our wonderful parents to just create a positive learning environment for our students. And I'm just excited to be here, and I just am appreciative of everybody's support. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Christina. Brittany would like to say a few words.
Hi to the board. Thank you for having us tonight. So I guess for a little bit of the background for me, I've been an educator for 16 years and started off as a math science teacher at the middle school level, and then took a TOSA position as well, working as a math curriculum coach, and then moved on to working as a 5th grade, 6th grade teacher. And then just like Christine, I took many opportunities to dive into connecting with students through many just clubs, whether it was photography or cheer or coaching soccer or coaching softball or whatever that might be, doing supervision in the after school program at my prior schools and things like that. But I'm really excited to dive into curriculum with Christina. We have had many conversations around math and how to support our students and to help reach those goals for our district. So I'm very passionate about math, and I'm really excited to help our students and our teachers get there. And I know that's one of our district goals. So we're really excited about that. We're really excited about the ELOP money, so we can dive into those opportunities to align data and so on to help support our students' diverse needs. So we're really excited, and we're having a great start to the year, settling in. I've definitely fallen in love with who our community is, and our students and our teachers are just so talented. And so I'm really excited to see how we get to coordinate all of those efforts. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Last but certainly not least, Director Leeds.
Good evening. This is fun because I have sat in a few different seats, including that one. And that one. I started in the district as an aide at Main Street with Mr. Rogers as the principal. I came to Brighton as an aide, and I actually had a student in Miss Adrius's class. And then I taught for a while, and I've done a number of things, and now here I am. But Scott gave us the opportunity to invite people to be here tonight who are close friends or family. And one of the things that I really love about our district is that they start off as your work family, and then they become your family. And so many of the people here tonight are that for me, and I think also on the internet. Are some of my family, including my mom, who's a retired educator. When I became a principal, I asked her, I said, Mom, did you ever think I would become a principal? And she said, without hesitation, no. And so it's a truly privilege to work in this district with all of you. And I just love this community. You know, when I first started teaching, you would teach like hide at the grocery store. You just like wanna go to work and go home. And now like I love seeing our kids and our families out in the community and having the chance to be here and make a difference in this greater community. And so thus far this year, we have been busy, but all good stuff, all really exciting things that ultimately I think bring about improved outcomes for our kids in our district. So really happy to be here. In this, I don't know, 6th, 7th different job that I have held in the district. So thank you very much.
No, congratulations. I've seen the difference.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Well, we're so fortunate to have all 3 of you in the positions that you're in. And thank you again for coming tonight. And don't feel bad if you want to leave out.
Thank you. This is a presentation item, right? If the board has any questions or comments, y'all are welcome to, but also in case anyone in the audience wants to say anything, we will have a space for that. Anyone from the team have anything else to add?
And one thing I really got from everybody is you guys have really tried different jobs in the district, and that gives you such a great perspective when you're problem solving as a leader, and I just love that you guys just have a great energy. So,
I even started as a campus kid site director at Main Street, so.
That's awesome. So cool. Yeah.
thank you all. Our kids are in good hands, so thank you for everything that you've done. And I'm very grateful.
Congratulations.
Yes.
I've seen the hard work done, so.
Thank you. Yeah.
Mr. B, did you start at Santa Cruz Gardens? Is that your first school?
I'm in my 11th year at the Gardens,
You started with the district there.
1988.
Wow.
Full circle.
Yeah.
Feels kind of poetic.
It is. Awesome. Thank you. I couldn't say anything more than what my teammates here have said, but if anyone in the audience has anything they need to chime in, y'all are welcome to say a word or two, but no pressure. We are all greatly appreciative. So thank you.
I will say something.
Yes, ma'am.
I will say that it's been an absolute joy already this year working with Carissa, and I've already learned a lot. And I am like extremely grateful for the knowledge that she is bringing. As someone who was out of education for 15 years before I got pulled back in, I have great anticipation of learning from this amazing brain right there. And I'm so grateful that she's my director. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all. Yes, Mr. B.
I just want to say that Christina has been ready for a long time for the role that she did. Right now, she's doing a fantastic job as an AP and has been ready for a long time to be principal. And then Miss Carissa, what a solid ship she's got going up at Santa Cruz Gardens. I just feel fortunate to come in behind her and just to carry that on. So she did a great job, in my opinion, as the principal up at the Gardens. But it's just knocking it out of the park as the director of student services from my experience thus far this year. So congratulations. And I think I had a hand in hiring Brittany, so. We have a really great assistant. I don't know Brittany as well as I know Christina.
Thank you. And I'll agree they are amazing. So thank you guys. All right. Well, y'all are welcome to stay. You know the drill. You are welcome to stay and enjoy the rest of our meeting, but we understand if you need to go home.
And just for clerical, no one on email.
Thank you. No one was on email. Thank you, Michelle. I got so carried away. All right, our next presentation item is Climate Tech LLC's presentation. Michelle, would you like to introduce that one?
I would. Good evening, everyone. We have Rob Redding here from Climate Tech. He is going to be giving the updated presentation on where we're at with all of our projects currently. I know a lot of the trustees had an opportunity to see some of the work at hand in our open houses at our school sites. And we have the opportunity to meet weekly, usually, and get caught up. I meet with staff from Climate Tech, and so does George Lopez and Steve Cartwright, and just so we all stay on the same page on our progress. So I'm going to turn it over to Rob right now.
Sure. I don't know if I stand. I'm
You can,
blocking everybody at home.
You're fine.
That's all right. Well,
And George,
and George is working on it all night out.
I was like, George
There it is.
has got a clicker somewhere.
That's what-
There it is.
Well, there we go.
Yeah. the clicker.
Awesome. I can drive too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the introduction, Michelle, and trustee Jackson Miller and the rest of the board of trustees, staff, and the remaining members of the community still joining us tonight. Again, I'm Rob Redding with Climate Tech. We appreciate the opportunity tonight to be here, give you guys an update on this program. It's truly comprehensive, touching a lot of different systems throughout all of your campuses. And again, as you've been walking around through the open houses and the back to school nights and everything going on, you see there's a lot of progress that's been made. So want to give you just a real quick overview on where we're at on a lot of things. So this is kind of I like to call it good news, bad news, but we'll do the bad news first, good news. So the timelines, unfortunately, obviously, you know what's been going on in the world right now. Supply chains, market volatility, a lot of challenges in getting construction projects done. This has in no way been an ideal process for anyone, just as getting materials here and really making things happen on the timelines we really all wanted to deliver. However, the good news side of all that is because of the vision of the board and the type of program that you put together here, things like that market volatility, those price risks, those are not things that the district's been subject to, and so many of your peers have when it comes to budgeting for construction projects. The way you put this program together, this is delivered under a fixed price. The budgets were locked in long ago for the district here. So you've done a great job of saving money that other districts are unfortunately having to spend to play catch up. And speaking of catch up, a lot of your peers over the last couple of weeks with the heat waves have found out we probably should have air conditioning in our classrooms. Well, if they're just now starting to have those conversations and move in that direction, it's not a matter of months till they're going to have those solutions in their classrooms. It's years. You guys are, if you haven't already had those put in some of the classrooms here, you're months from those being done. So you've advanced the timeline of all those things for your classrooms significantly here. So with that, like I said, a little bit of bad news, but a lot of good news for where you're at and great things still to wrap up here. A lot of them are already complete. We mentioned this is a very comprehensive program. There's a lot of different systems that your campuses are being touched here. We kind of broke them apart for update here in 6 major categories. Water standpoint, the irrigation controls across the district were put in earlier this calendar year. However, going into the rainy season, never really got a chance to use them because everything was off anyways. But now, especially as we're getting into drought conditions and things, the district has a great way of controlling its water use and reducing that as needed, but keeping everything green and lush. The LED lighting, and Trustee Donnelly, as you mentioned, the windows that are going in here, really visible, a difference to your campus here, really noticeable, and not only from a visual perspective, but a comfort perspective in the classrooms. LED lighting as well in the interior spaces, those are complete. The exterior spaces are really just the parking lots, which, like for the gardens, that solar structure that's there is going to have LED lighting put underneath it. So lighting up your parking lots as well. That'll be completed here over your next break. The electrical upgrades, the next 3 things kind of all tie together. So as we're adding air conditioning to some remaining spaces here and at Santa Cruz Gardens, there's additional electrical infrastructure that needs to be put in to support the added load of those air conditioning systems. So sequentially here, the upgrades got to go in first, then we can put in the air conditioning, and then we can control it. That's all scheduled right now to happen here, Thanksgiving break. So it's going to be a major overhaul of the electrical support here at this campus. Moving into the HVAC, so that's the added air conditioning. As part of the program, we're replacing a lot of units. The replacements are effectively done, but we've got a few that are on back order that are still getting delivered. The remaining ones is going to be really the adding of air conditioning. Again, Santa Cruz Gardens, and here the spaces that the few remaining ones that don't have air conditioning yet for your district are, again, a matter of a couple months away from having that air conditioning, as opposed to districts right now looking years out to get themselves covered. Building automation, where the new air conditioning is going in, as those new systems go in, New thermostats and controls will be going in right behind those. For the units that were being replaced, where we were taking out old units that were already there, those new units are in, the new controls are in. So Steve and the operations team here can already kind of see, control everything remotely. And then eventually everything will be on one system talking to itself and give you guys a lot of control across the board there. And then renewables and power resiliency. So obviously the solar shade structures at the gardens and at Main Street, they're up. Very visible presence on campus. They're already, they're not producing power yet, but they're effectively being used for shading cars, for providing shaded areas for the kids. So you're getting that benefit out of it yet. We've had to make some changes to the units here and at SoCal Elementary. So those are into final engineering now. Panels have already been ordered, steel's been ordered. It's going to be a matter of time until those get up as well. And then we've got some inverters to come in behind that. And then we'll work with PG&E, get those coordinated and get those online, producing power for the district. Perfect timing as we head into the next calendar year when PG&E's got a 13% rate increase going across the board. So with your power, about 87–88% of it being generated on site with your solar panels, that's a minimal amount of your energy. It's going to have to come from PG&E and be subject to whatever PG&E is doing in future years. So from a green perspective, doing a lot of great things for your campuses. From a green perspective, doing a lot of great things for your campuses. And then also with PG&E and their sometimes inability to deliver power to districts, the program includes a generator here at Main Street, backing up the cafeteria building. So if for any chance the grid has to go down, that building is going to have power and can be a community cooling center. B, the food stock that you have there, you're not going to lose. So that's potentially thousands of dollars in food stock that could be at risk if you didn't have that backed up. So that's a lot talking through here. Any questions on anything kind of timeline and individual project related before I kind of get into some before and afters?
So if we do the board first and then we'll go out. Sorry. And I'll hop in. I had a question about when everything goes online with the solar panels, right? So some of the structures are up, others like your steel's ordered, etc. So do we wait for everything to be built for it to, go online and be turned on, or do we do it?
Coordinating that with PG&E, they effectively treat the district's program as one program. So going back and forth with them, it's going to be once everything is done, we say, hey, PG&E, we're ready to go live. Come on out. Take about 4 hours, shut everything down, turn everything on, make sure it's communicating fine and connected fine, and then you go live. So
they have to do the district, or they're going to do the district as a whole, right? So, okay.
Well, I'm too bad. We can't get in with our.
The Thanksgiving break, a lot is going to be going on for such a short amount of time. One of the biggest hurdles we've had to kind of figure out in there is that they have to shut down the power at New Brighton for
about 4 or 5 days.
Solidly. And so bringing in generators because we moved all of our servers to New Brighton because we were having issues with this building. And so unfortunately that's where they're being powered. So we can't have the servers go down. And so we're looking at getting generators and having that going for 5 days while they have the power down to the majority of the buildings. Not all of them will be going down. And so, but the office and the Zero's wings and all those wings are going to be going down. So that like some of those things, and then waiting to do like Santa Cruz Gardens during Thanksgiving break as well for generation and all of that, just so that we have downtime when the kids aren't here. That's been a challenge. You guys have been great. I just like
appreciate the flexibility as well on the district side. It's been super helpful to get this going.
I know we had a meeting this morning and we were talking about the EV stations being installed here at New Brighton, and we're trying to coordinate dates that are appropriate. And I'm like, can't do testing days, can't do this day, can't do that day. And they're just there. You guys are great as far as rolling with how we need to reschedule time when we're going to have, if we have to have a loud disruption, to how we're going to minimize that if it's going to be on a school day. So
field trip.
Thank you. Other questions from the team?
So which sites have the air conditioning units?
So all we did through the program was look at what you already have in air conditioning at, which through the bond, you did a lot of adding of air conditioning, replacing of units. So there were a few units that still were of age of needing replacement. So those have been replaced. And then a lot of that was Main Street has a big cooling tower. You'll see pictures of it here that need to be replaced in some of the units in the actual classrooms. So the cooling tower is going to be part of that big program happening Thanksgiving weekend. Because we've had a little bit of backorder on getting that here, but the units in the rooms themselves have been replaced. So Thanksgiving, that will be replaced. And then the two big things that we've been looking at is there's a couple buildings in Santa Cruz Gardens that never have had air conditioning. So they're getting air conditioning. And then the Zeros wings here have not had air conditioning, and
Tents.
they're gonna be getting air conditioning.
The tents.
The 10th, I'm sorry, yeah.
So yeah, that will thankfully
Those are-
source all of our areas now will have functioning air conditioning. And Santa Cruz Gardens, I know will be very happy. Principal Broadhurst is a little sad that it's not happening in this go around.
I could attest from you. I didn't
Yeah.
see the classroom I was in.
I know. So that's,
I'm gonna sound like an old timer, but there's quite a few things on there that had come up in the past, and it was not possible.
Mhm.
And, I'm a big fan of technological progression. And I can't wait till we have, board meetings with Meta goggles on. No, but anyways, there's a lot of great things going on, and it's gonna continue to, as, time moves on. Did we ever find out what that solar panel is, that mysterious, dropped by 2001 Space Odyssey? It's like,
the loner.
Yeah, the weird-
Oh, not here?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a PG&E pilot program that they did for a lot of school districts as kind of a little token solar, but really like a learning, like a live learning lab effectively for students. They put them in and didn't hook all of them up necessarily. Some worked for a week, some worked for a year, some worked for 3 years. No one really knows, but none of them really seem to be functional anymore.
so PG&E was saying solar is not working.
Yeah.
Stay with
Yes.
electricity.
Yeah.
And here at New Brighton, not only will solar be going onto the field and in two different locations, there will also be solar on the new buildings. Because when we built those, we had them solar ready. And so, yeah.
Right.
Any other questions at this point from the board? I know you still have more of your presentation, but
Yep.
we also had a question from the audience. Do you want to ask now?
So I actually have a question from other teachers at SoCal Elementary, and we're just wondering, and this might be a question for Michelle. We're just wondering, there are 10 classrooms at SoCal that do not have air conditioning. And we're wondering if those classrooms will eventually get air conditioning.
Don't have air conditioning. I
Like
didn't.
my classroom does not have air conditioning, and last week I was at 85 degrees with 4 fans running in the classroom. And the old building at SoCal does not have air conditioning, and we're just wondering if that is part of the plan.
I don't know.
No.
I don't know. I was not aware that there were any buildings at SoCal that didn't have air conditioning. So we will look into that. Yeah. Do our walkthroughs. I know they never seen them. No, yeah, I did not know.
No, they point that out, and yeah.
Yeah.
we'll-
We'll look at that.
That's a conversation to be had. Yeah.
Yes. Wish I had Steve. Steve would know.
Yeah, Steve would know, yeah. But then, yeah, the remaining slides that I have here are just kind of some before and afters that we have for showing you what's going on. That's over at Main Street. That's that main cooling tower that's getting replaced as part of this. As you can see, it's seen better days. Sample kind of what the thermostats have looked like here in the past. A lot of them just kind of stand alone on the wall. They're not all tied together and communicate and give you the opportunity to program and change schedules and set points remotely. And then obviously what the windows used to look like here at New Brighton.
With the beautiful curtains.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah. These are the upgraded irrigation controllers that you've got now standardized across every site here at the district, give you the ability to program rain sensors with them, and all that functionality that comes along with it. And then some of the windows that have been installed here, and this was a few weeks ago. These pictures were taken, so if you go out now, there's even more that are completed and fewer classrooms that are left to be rounded out. And then the solar arrays that are up. So you've got the gardens and Main Street here shown. Yeah, and that's what I had for this evening.
Yeah.
Looks like everybody's trying to fit in the shade there.
Yeah, those spots go pretty quickly.
I do know I've talked to Principal Platt on several occasions, and he's quite thankful for the shade that comes down into the play area. So for the kids and stuff, and they like to sit up on that hill under the shade. So that was a nice byproduct for Main Street. Okay, yeah.
All right.
Perfect.
Thank you. And do we have any additional questions from the public? I hopped around a bit. No, we're good. Do we have any questions on email by any chance?
Nothing on email.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
very,
Rob,
very much.
as always. Rob comes to us from Sacramento, so I know he tries to do his rounds when you do make it down to our area. Like
Working with many of the districts, your peers in the county, so.
they're
What are your favorite?
I'm not gonna lie, when I told him that we get gales every once in a while, SLV was a little jealous.
They're not as fresh when you pick them up. And
Pick them up there, yeah. Yeah, SLV and city schools and you guys just entered contract with Popro. Yep, so congratulations, yeah. Thank you so much, and we won't hold you either to staying with us if you would like to go. Thanks, Rob.
Oh, I think George took.
George, yeah, you're gonna get it.
Sorry.
You'll get it personalized.
Yeah, maybe George will put for you.
Yeah.
He'll hand deliver
Well,
once I switch that over.
so our next item is a presentation regarding updates on the LCAP, affectionately known as our LCAP bite.
So I just wanted to give full disclosure. This is an LCAP bite. This is not a CAS presentation and a data presentation necessarily. It is merely an update to the board to let you know some bird's eye view of some of the information that we're preliminarily seeing. All of this information is really, it's not for public consumption necessarily. It does have some restrictions, but I just want to say those out loud in advance. So it is information that's available to school districts for the purposes of a few things. One, sharing some information with the board, also to help schools do their planning for their success and plan for instruction. So this is not a comprehensive discussion about all of the details of the data that we're seeing, but a very general overview. So as you can see, and I'm kind of doing two screens at one time, because I can't really see that one. Oh.
1 second.
Wait.
Okay. I'm like,
Not cooperating.
okay.
Usually it's us in this situation. I'm Jordan stuff last.
No. Poor George.
Well, while he's on this screen, I'll just kind of go through a brief kind of overview of the things that are in this presentation for tonight. Obviously, the introduction I provided to you, like the context of the information that we're seeing. It's just a very kind of basic and rigid point of view from a bird's eye. The other thing that we'll talk about is for our new board member, what the CAS assesses. So the board has been through this process before, but we'll kind of lay that out for you. We'll look at some preliminary data results. And what we'll look at is some things it tells us and some things that it doesn't tell us. And then we will provide some context about what the data might be telling us as we start to dig in. We will do analysis of the data and we will provide a much more comprehensive report at that time. And then we'll just kind of talk about some opportunities for action. Every time we look at data, we see things that we need to, things reveal themselves and we really dig into that. So those are our objectives.
I'm gonna share my desktop over there.
Great. However you want to do it is And I know the board has a copy of this in your packet, so I think it's just the public that is getting to view. While he's sharing that, I will just say in advance, one of the things you'll notice in this data is there's no state aggregated data that is allowed for us to review at this time. And so a lot of times we try to like use some comparison numbers. How are we doing, you know, when we match ourselves against the state? How are we doing when we match ourselves against other districts or the county? This state information is not yet available. I'm trying to buy a little bit of.
That's okay. Will you remind us when, so that I get this quick bird's
Yeah,
eye,
yeah.
right, summary, information piece, but will you remind us around what time of year we get a more comprehensive?
It's typically this time. So last year was the first year that the state officially re-prescribed the essential nature of the assessment, the CASP assessment itself. And so when they did that, they also adjusted the assessment. They actually truncated the version of the assessment the students were taking. They changed some of the content of the assessment. And so when they're trying to look at that and they're trying to then push it back out to us, there's some mismatches, right? So it just takes a little bit longer because it is basically, even though it's a revised assessment, it's a new assessment. Right. So all of the end game products look different, like the reports to parents look a little bit different. Some of those kinds of features look a little bit different. And so they have let us know that sometimes this fall, we will actually have the ability to give you a more comprehensive report. I can drill down, given kind of my level of permit to look at it. With the principals in a little bit more detail, but not the kind of detail that we would typically look at this time of year. Thank you. Yes.
Jessica, I just want to confirm it looks good over there.
It looks great over here.
Just let me know when to advance the slide.
Advance the slide. Okay, so what does the CASP include? So the CASP includes a English language arts component and a math component. And that is really constructed by Smarter Balance. That's kind of who makes these assessments for the state of California. There's also another alternative assessment, and that's for students who really want to see how they're doing, but they can't access the assessment as it's written. There is also the California Science Test, and that's not administered for every grade. In our district, it's 5 and 8. And then there's a Spanish assessment as well. So for students who have been here less time, that may be the assessment of choice. So these are just some overviews of kind of the types of assessment data that will be available. We're going to focus on a few tonight. It's the English language arts and the math data. There are so many data elements that I already provided today. So we'll just kind of keep it short. The CASP does help guide us. It's intended to do a couple of things. It's to communicate to our district, to our families, to our community, to our boards, how students are doing. It's intended to be transparent. It's intended to be all of those things. And so it does help us inform our LCAP. Now you'll ask me, well, we passed the LCAP a few months ago, but now we're getting data. Does that make sense? Well, the LCAP is a living document and it does exist and it does continue. And we do refine the actions and services related to the LCAP through the course of the year. But we did have data at the end of the year that helped us to do that. And that was some of our iReady data and some of our FNP data. So it does help inform that. At this time of the year, it helps inform the school site plans, the SIPSA plans, so fondly called in our principal group. And those are very important to the school site. The school site drills down individually with their school and says, how are our students doing? Because we know from school to school, it's not exactly the same. There are some themes that run into it, but they're not exactly the same. And then for the individual teachers, it can inform their pathway. Like, what are our students need the most? What do we need to focus on? What do we need to do some rethinking on and things like that? And then future professional development certainly is a huge element. So those are kind of the how does it guide us. George, if you move to the next one. Next slide. So this is just some kind of graphic representation of the data that I'm looking at right now. So this first slide, as you'll see, is just, kind of looking at a glance at our district at large. The two little circles on each side represent the English language arts kind of composite data on the left, and then the math composite data on the right. And we'll see that kind of overall students in our district, and that's, we're talking everyone who's assessed, so 3 through 8 with the CAPS test, have a proficiency level of about 57.28% and 38.09% in math. What you'll find, and we'll talk about when we do a future presentation, is this is not an uncommon statistic, right? We know that there's going to be a drop post-COVID. We just have to study our resolution and mediation of that. If you go to the next slide, that slide really just kind of looks at our English language arts proficiency. The bands mean the same thing. The green and the blue mean the same thing as they did in the little circle. But this really kind of breaks it down by grade level. So how is a grade level doing, and how do we know? And so you'll see there's some levels of consistency, but you see some peaks, and that's nice. That's a noticing that we have. And of course, we drill down into that a little bit deeper. There's a lot of information that's embedded in that one bar graph, right? Who are the students, what specific strands, like all of those kinds of things. And we'll dive deeply into those. And then the next slide really is a similar graph, but it's related to math performance. And what you'll see is, if you kind of go back and forth, is that you can see that difference, right? Those blue and green lanes are smaller, just like that first graph that we showed. But this again is the breakdown by grade. Something interesting that we I found so far, is that the proficiency level in math is much higher in the earlier grades, but in the English language arts, it's the reverse. So we're going to study that. Why is that the case? Next slide. So this looks like this is some comparison data. This comparison data really just tries to help us take a look at where is SoCal Union Elementary School District in reference to the county of Santa Cruz. And you'll see we do, a little bit better than the county of Santa Cruz. So that's one measure. The Santa Cruz City schools is not what we're looking at. We're looking at the county at large. So that's all 10 districts. I wanted to reference a little bit more data that I didn't include. I will include it for you. And it really tries to take a look at a like district. So we looked at Live Oak, and that's a really good comparison. And when we have the board notes that go to you on Friday, I'll include that for you as well. Then we take a look at, and I may pronounce some of these, the comparison by English language arts. So the same thing, we just looked at the math. This is the comparison of the English language arts scores. Again, you can see the English language arts scores are exceed the county level. The next slide. Next slide. All right, so this really is just a look at some similar information, drilling down one more level. So this is our English language learners. This is their English language arts proficiency level by grade.
Is this the low socioeconomic status? Is that, or are we on different numbers here?
So I might have got my slides mixed up, but we'll do low socioeconomic first. And so what you'll see is there's actually a high level of proficiency when we're looking at our low socioeconomic students. That's really something that is not typical to see. We see a very small gap in achievement with regard to this group of students. We see a farther gap when we look at other groups of students. Next slide. So this is this similar comparison for the socioeconomically disadvantaged students. And again, we see a similar trend, right? We see a little less proficiency in the earlier years and a lot more proficiency in the later years. We don't know why that's true. We don't know if, you know, we're identifying more, we don't know why that's true, or we have less, but we will definitely study that. Next slide. So these are English learners that are enrolled 12 months or more. So we really wanted to try to tease out who are English language learners who have been here for more than a year and how are they doing. And this is something that we really are interested in focusing on more. Why is this proficiency level happening? What are some of the things that we need to consider with the students, their materials, all of those kinds of things that we're thinking about as we're trying to build their language. And this is not dissimilar from many school districts in the state of California. This is a dire concern. If you go to the next one. And this is the same graph for math. And again, you see some consistencies. The English language arts proficiency is higher in English language arts than in math. But again, something that is still fairly dire. What we do see is an interesting peak, you know, in that early grade of proficiency, and then, you know, we see a lot less of that as time moves on. This looks identical.
Yeah.
I'm scrolling back and forth this between math and ELA. You are right. And that's the change I noticed. So you got two of the same slide. This is the math. Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah.
I was gonna say that's, I was like, challenging. I'm used to seeing between the two. So do we each take one page?
Yes,
Okay.
one page. Sorry about that. So we'll put this in the corrected packet. But you'll just see it plants some seeds of information for us, right? George, next slide for us. I'm trying to kind of go through it quickly, and I know it's like you want to know more. I want to know more when I look at all of this.
But if I can just, I'm so sorry, but we're seeing, and I wouldn't use the right language, but we're seeing stronger, you know, results in math for this particular group than in English language arts, which would make sense if that's an English language learner.
Right. So, I mean, there's some things that we have knowns and some things that we have to investigate further. There is a lot of language in math though. And so that's like the piece of it, like the math language is so complex and complicated, and we do really work on the language of math. And so I have a lot of curiosities about it. The next slide. And this is students with reported disabilities. And so this is obviously a comprehensive graph. It doesn't include types of disabilities, those kinds of things. We could definitely tease that out. But this is these are the proficiency levels in math. And we see, you know, some fluctuations, you know, some interesting fluctuations, you know, kind of, you know, at the beginning that really are appealing. Like, what is happening in those grades, you know, and are we responding early? Like, we always have lots of questions about the data that we see that doesn't match from grade to grade. And then the next slide. So this is just data to look at, right? These are the schools. Everybody, you know, who's here has, you know, an interest in seeing like how do our schools compare. This is one data point. I don't want to be very clear. This does not measure the success of the school or success of students. It is a data point. So all of our schools are amazing. They're all great. This is one assessment that we're looking at. And so it does give you some information about how the students are doing at each of the sites. This one is relative to English language arts. George, the next slide. And this is the same graphing, but of the math results. So just really interesting to kind of take that in. The next slide, George. So this is just a look at New Brighton. We have nothing to compare them with in our district. So this is just taking a look at New Brighton as a whole. And we do notice some things. Their proficiency levels as a school are a bit higher than as a district overall. But again, we're looking at different kind of essential components to like what is it that we need to do at that school differently to intervene, because it's so much later. The language development is so much more expansive. The language used for math is so much more expansive. So like, what do we really need to do to support those teachers and those students? And the next slide. So these are just some of the action steps, that we will initially take. First, when you can definitely take a look at them. It is not an exhaustive list. There's lots of work to be done. But we will we'll study the data. We'll study correlative data. Like, does this match what we're seeing in the classroom? Does this match with I read? Does this match with teacher observation? Does this match? Like, what is that correlative data? Because we never look at one data source. You want to at least triangulate data in order to come up with a representative kind of idea about what you're looking at. We'll take a look at thematic bands. Like, is there a theme in what's missing? So when I was speaking to one of the principals earlier this week, when we were kind of talking through the SIPSA, the principal saying, gosh, this one specific strand, within this English language arts is really, really low. Like, if we could just really spend some time learning on about how to focus on that would make a big impact. So we look for those things in the data, and they could be large or they could be very small. We can be creative when we're planning those out of school learning opportunities. So like I said earlier in my report, the extended learning opportunity grant funds that we have now that we've really never had before are fantastic, and they're all so different by site, and we're really excited about that. We'll move forward with the equity work. Who's succeeding, who isn't? Why is that happening? What are we seeing? What's the experience like? We'll do a materials review. And so one of the things that we're looking at are the materials that are being used in a certain classroom helping those students to feel and be successful or not. We'll look at, just kind of a tiered support structure. So that's one of the things that Chris has been working on with student services, is like really trying to build systems of support. We don't need kids to go from gen ed to special education without having really strong systems of support. Just methods of teaching craft, right? Like, what methods are working. EL Rice professional learning track has been really great for teachers in the past. Last year we had many teachers involved, and they're continuing to work with us again for another year. We'll grow the family engagement because we know that parent education is going to be a huge part of this. We'll keep being absence-based. Like, what can students do well? What do we do well? And how do we build from there? We will continue our work on building the EL master plan. So we have a systemic way of responding to students who come in as identified English learners. And then of course, we'll continue our culturally responsive teaching and learning about the brain. So lots of things to look at. I'm sorry, but it's really information that we need to be looking at this level, but also really deeply. And hopefully, probably, I'm hoping within a month or so, we can give you a much more detailed analysis. Thank you.
Any questions or comments on this from the team? We all have the understanding that it'll come back with a deeper dive.
Oh, it will.
Yeah, okay.
I was just wondering if you knew how many ELLs we have that in 12 months or longer. Like, is this a big group, or more? Is it kind of a small number?
It's as a district, it's not a small number. By percentage, it's a small number. By school, it varies. So some schools have smaller numbers than others. This was the students of last year that were assessed, so I'd have to look at the last year's data. It's not a small enough number to say, well, it's an insignificant factor. It's a significant factor. Okay.
And are any of those ELL performance or more given the Spanish assessment, or is that not?
The Spanish assessment, to my understanding, is given only to students who are less than 12 months. So I don't think there's anybody that's waived out of that. I believe that that's a pretty hard fast. We do have students who do take the LPAC. Every English learner takes the LPAC. So we do collect different information about how the students are accessing English from their language, like from that perspective. So it's a different kind of measurement. And when I bring back the data next time, it will be inclusive of the science information and the LPAC information as well.
And then just with the different schools data, do we consider perhaps different supports, maybe at different schools, that maybe different sites might need a certain kind of support?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every one of our schools is different.
Yeah.
Every one of our schools has craft and talent in many ways. So we always respond. I would say always is a hard word because COVID really didn't allow a lot of the response mechanisms that we would typically passionately put in place. But what a typical process is to really use those SIPSA plan processes to say, like, what is it that's happening at your school? What do you need to have, support in? What kind of, financial resources, human resources, all those kinds of things. Knowing like the sky's not the limit, but it really is a great place to start because that's where really we find out what each school site needs individually.
Good up here at the table. Any questions or comments from our in-person audience on this item? Not seeing anything. Any email questions or comments?
We do. We have a question from Donna Renee Martin. I am just wondering if the performance data for English language learners has ever been looked at through the lens of whether or not socioeconomic status is a compounding factor. In other words, are all ELL students struggling, or does the socioeconomic status of an ELL student play a role in the achievement gap?
Yes, so I mean, I'll answer that as simply put as we can. Is when we start drilling down, we can look at multiple factors. We have many students that fall in more than one category. We have some of the students that fall in every category, right? Those are all compounding interests. So we really want to take a look at all of those. So it was a very good question raised. What we oftentimes find is when you have compounding interests like that, you have a greater area of gap. That's a general statement. But it is one of the things that we will definitely look at because we do have students who fall in 2 or 3 of those categories.
Thank you for that question. Is that the only email we have? Okay. All right. Thank you for the presentation. I think we all look forward to hearing more. All right. We're going to move on to our action items. Our first action item is to consider approval of internet service partnership agreement with Cruise.io.
Excellent. So just to kind of connect it to the previous presentation, we're always looking for equity wins in our district. And an opportunity came along during a very busy summer when the chief technology officer of the Santa Cruz COE reached out. That's Jason Fortune. And he had inquired if we would be interested in possibly providing low-cost internet to low-income families. And we didn't have to think very long to say, yes, we would be interested in that. And so we got our IT coordinator, George Lopez, involved, our facilities person, Steve Cartwright, involved, and then leading the point for Cruise.io is James Hackett. Thank you for being so patient and waiting. I really appreciate it. I know it's been a long week. So James is here to help answer any questions that the board may have. But I will just say it really is that focus on providing low-cost internet to low-income families is the thrust of it. And you will see that we're requesting the board to consider an agreement with Cruise.io tonight. And the great thing that has been really made the ground very smooth for us to run on is that they have already partnered with Pajaro Valley Unified School District and Live Oak School District. So even in terms of the forms and everything, it was very smooth sailing and a very smooth partnership to be able to work with them. They came out and surveyed our sites to see if the equipment that would be necessary to provide this would be compatible with our sites. I worked very closely with George and Steve during those surveys and determined that yes, our site would be compatible with what they need to put in place. And so it's a win-win. It's the ultimate win-win for our families that need it the most. And so I would see if the board has any questions about this partnership with Cruise.io.
Yeah, now you say low cost to us, to low income families.
Yes.
Does fiscal impact has no fiscal.
Well, it won't cost the district anything,
Okay, all right, then who's
the families,
the families? Okay.
but instead of paying what you usually
And
pay.
they're
to
kind
ex-
of going through us too? Is that how it's working?
We just, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but we just provide the space for the equipment. They don't go through us for any forms or anything.
So then Emerald Bay will have access to the facility here or the server here, I believe.
To the,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, to the Wi-Fi network, yes. To internet services.
And it's hardwired, right?
It's the connection to the homes is wireless. So it's a point to multi-point wireless system. It's not Wi-Fi, it's a fixed wireless system.
Okay.
So within each of the schools that we partner with, there's about a 2-mile radius. Any home within that radius that has line of sight can get the equal access service for, it's free for the first 3 months and then $15 a month for that all in. We've got over 1,000 students and families connected at this point, mainly in our Valley Unified School District, but also in Live Oak. And we're also partnered with Scotts Valley School District also. So essentially, we are, by partnering with you, you're expanding the equal access network, and anyone who can see any of our sites, anyone on our network who qualifies can get the reduced cost service. And qualifying for the most part means, do they qualify for the free or reduced school lunch program, or do they live in any affordable housing, Section 8 voucher? But we also partner with the Housing Authority and affordable housing providers.
Okay.
Other questions from the board?
It's also open to faculty and staff.
Now, I'm not sure if we have, a homeless population, folks living in their cars or RVs.
We do.
We do, and then would they be able to connect to this?
We can certainly work with.
Absolutely not. It's because again, it's not Wi-Fi.
Right, right.
To be clear, it's a connection to the home. Just in the same way as if you had a Comcast connection and the cables coming in and plugging into your home, and there's a Wi-Fi router in the corner of your house and you connect. Exactly the same theory. It's just that the connection is wireless instead of wired. So it's a
Right, yeah.
dedicated connection to the home with the Wi-Fi in the home that we provide. The only people who'd be able to connect to people in the home who've got that login and password, just like the internet at your house. And one thing I want to stress about the initiative, it's exactly the same service as we sell for full price on the west side and everywhere all around town. This isn't it's not a reduced speed or capped product. It's just we're subsidizing the price through our partnership with the school district and our partnership with the community foundation.
And the access is limited to, you have to be within like 2 miles of one of the sites, one of our
It's
school sites.
about 2-mile radius from each site that we can provide really good service with this particular technology. Yeah, so the more sites we have, the better, obviously, and it's a line of sight technology. So if we can get overlapping sites even, that's good because it helps us get trees, other houses, hills, those things are problems for this technology, and we've got plenty of all of those things around.
Do we feel like that's gonna cut, I'm so sorry. I was just gonna follow up. Do we feel like that's gonna cover a good percentage of our district? I'm not good with the geography of it.
It's not gonna cover the entire district, but it'll be a start, and this is an area we don't have great coverage now.
Right.
For cruiser, because I want to stress again, anyone who can connect to any of our nodes anywhere on our network will be able to get this low cost services if they qualify. It's not just from these 4 sites that we're looking at, but yeah, it won't cover 100% of the district, but it'll be a good start.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have we considered putting a receptor on the Opal website?
We did not consider Opal Cliffs, but maybe that's something we could consider in the future. Don't know if that neighborhood would be optimal for that or not,
Those apartments there.
you know? Perhaps.
We could look at that as the next phase. We got a grant from the county of Santa Cruz in the early part of this year to build more of these equal access sites. But only in unincorporated areas of the county is that funding applicable. And there's a timeline on spending that funding, so we're motivated to build in the unincorporated areas as quickly as possible. But we've spoken to Scott and we'd be very interested in there being a phase 2 to this. This is successful.
How would families know if they're within a 2-mile radius? When they apply, would they know already, or they apply and then they're told actually you're not?
Normally, they'd apply to us and we tell them whether they qualify or not, essentially. We like, if possible, to partner with the school district to get the word out to your staff and students and families. I think that's the most effective way, rather than it coming from, oh, is this a scam? What is this? What am I being sold? So I provided of some demonstration example materials to Scott. We've got flyers, posters. We're an ISP. We don't know anything about means testing or qualifying students or families, and we don't want to. We don't want to have a gate that prevents people from getting this. So essentially, what we like to do is say, give us, you tell us if somebody qualifies, and they qualify as far as we're concerned, which essentially is usually, do they qualify for the free or reduced school lunch program? Then send them to us. We'll give you a URL and a coupon code, essentially. They go there, type in their address, put in the code, that lets us know they got that from you. And then that just goes into our normal sales processes. Our guys will pick that up. We'll do our pre-qualification. Sometimes we can see just from our maps and our tools, whether it's a yes or a no. Sometimes we have to come out and up on the roof or get the bucket truck up and double check.
I'm just noticing something. I have a question on one of the whereases in the recital. So it would be, it's the first page after the memo, so page 56. So the third whereas, it says the district's the record owner of certain real property, and we've got 4510 Jade Street listed there.
That would be close.
Yeah. It's just, so is that just that we need to recite all of the property that we own, but we're not putting it there, right? I mean, in the end.
I honestly don't remember if we put that in there for future possibilities or not.
Could, or it could have been an oversight. And got left in from a previous draft. I'll double check that though, and we'll make sure that everything matches up on the final paperwork. That's up to page 56.
It's true, we are the owner of that property, but when we get to the actual item, right, we're just acknowledging that that's not one of the locations yet. Any other questions from the board? No? Any questions from the audience? Yes.
You mentioned briefly that there's available staff and teachers as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Staff and teachers, I assume you'd be provided with the code, and then staff, faculty, or anyone working to the school as well, so we can send it out. Thank you.
Once this gets approved, if it does, how long until we can start, like I can start as a teacher pushing it out to my students? Because I know multiple families might really appreciate it. Okay, how long is it, months or?
It's weeks rather than months. We want to get started pretty quickly. As I said, we're on the clock with the county a little bit to spend that funding that they've given us. So we want, these would be high priority sites for us to build. So we get our crews, get these scheduled as soon as possible. We seem to be getting into the rainy season earlier this year, which is great, but it's not great for us to bring up on the roof. So everything goes well. Once we have the agreements in place, we'll start scheduling, and then we'll have the photo. They'll come on one by one, but it should be a matter of weeks.
Any other questions from the audience? Okay. Anything on email?
We have an email question that is in regards to our previous agenda item, and the emailer was fine with a digital response.
Okay, thank you. Great, I'll bring it back to the board and see if we have a motion.
Make the motion.
And is the motion to approve?
Approve the net service partnership agreement with Cruzio.
Do I have a- Great. First, I have a second, and now I've lost sight of whether this is a resolution or this is an agreement. Thank you very much. Okay, then it's a regular vote. All, so we have a motion and a second. Great. All in favor? Any opposed?
That's good that we're
Agreement
doing it with a
passes.
local company too, because
Yeah.
Cruzio started about 89.
Exactly.
Before, after the year. Little tiny. Exactly. There, yeah.
Yeah, we used to be at that end, now we're down the posh end of.
Did you start? Did you start?
Posh end.
Yeah, you are.
20 years. so
Okay.
Right from the beginning, but feels like. it.
That's
Thank
great.
you, everybody.
Thank you for
Thank you.
being with us and thank you for the opportunity. Great. All right.
Actually, did you come out before AOL?
We're right around the same.
Yeah.
We were around, there was nothing that you would recognize as the internet in 1989.
Right.
So it was really just bulletin boards and the beginning of email, and then into the good old dial-up days. And AOL and all that stuff.
Right. Now we're gonna have to download. Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, tugging along, we're gonna go on to item 8B, consider approval of the 21-22 unaudited actuals financial report.
So, George, will you be clicking for me?
The voice of George.
Can you hand it? Yeah, can you do it?
If I can do it, okay. Like, can I do it? Can you see? No,
Is it on?
nah.
Just make sure.
I've never used a clicker. Someday.
Wait, that way.
Somewhere.
Thank you, George.
I've used
It's a good thing he's used to his boss. I know, yeah, okay. All right, George will be the clicker for us. Mine is a very short slide presentation. Good evening, board. I am presenting to you tonight the unaudited actuals for 21-22. Just a little summary for, as we have a new board member, and this is the first time unaudited actuals will be presented. What this consists of is the district, prepares our financial, our end of the year financial reports, and they're called unaudited actuals at this time, because what I'm presenting to the board is what we have done as a district to close our books, shore everything up. We then download that into what is considered or called SAC software. It runs through its programs. We do everything that we need to do to close out our programs. The system will tell me if I have errors and that I need to go back in and fix them, and we upload and reload and download, and it's a long process to get to the 100-page report that the board has had an opportunity to review. That being said, the auditors will be back to present to you once we go through our official audit, which in our case will be October 4th through October 7th. They will complete their audit, and then they will give us our official audit report, which I will report to the board to you in December. And that will then become our audited actuals at that time. And fingers crossed, no audit findings in our audited actuals. So with that being said, I'm jumping to page 166 on the docket, if anyone is following along. This is the start of the presentation. The SACs, a little summary on SACs, the 100 pages, really, it's a file that gets uploaded from our financial system into what is called the SAC software. It goes in, and a lot of these numbers I don't type in manually. 90% of them I do not. They are generated from the upload from within our financial system. If there are error reports, I have to go back, make adjustments in our financial system with journals or budget transfers, recreate what is considered a DAT file, and then re-upload that DAT file into the state software, and then it starts to recompute everything all over again, and then we start all over again. And then it produces the page that says if we've met our requirements fiscally and legally, our 3% reserves, and that. The one small difference you will find from this presentation from normal presentations that I give in regards to both budget presentations and unaudited actuals is I am not presenting a multi-year projection tonight. And for the reason for that is we have multiple retros coming through and multiple AB 1200s, and we have the 45-day revision and the upload of our new budget. And then we just had another adjustment by the governor of a very small increase to the augmentation. With that being said, everything is just kind of jumbled. So when I present first interim in October, you will have all of that updated information. All of our retros will be posted. All the information from our raises will be on there, and then it'll be a true and accurate picture of our new ending fund balance. Also taking into account our enrollment for this year in ADA and the mitigation. So all that will roll into the first interim. So George, if we can move to the next slide, please. One of the things when I closed the books, one of the big ones was we were up $725,000 in our ending fund balance from what we had predicted in our budget. Those are made up of just a few different things. One of the big things is we had $200,000 set aside in the 21-22 school year for an adoption that we've deferred to the 22-23 school year. So that money just rolls forward for the deferment in this new school year that we're going to be doing the adoption. When you do your set aside for routine maintenance, restricted routine maintenance, it's 3% of your budget, not 3% of your actuals. When you close your books, you then take 3% of what you've actually spent in your general fund, and that is your contribution. This year, because our budgets are so overinflated and restricted because of ESSER monies, COVID relief funding monies. That being said, it reduced the budget down by about $125,000 once we did the shore up with the actuals to our budget. Another large chunk came to, we were predicting that we would have to support our CNS department this year by over $100,000 because they had been running in a deficit. And now with universal feeding and the new free and reduced program as it's being run, they actually ended the year with a roughly $150,000 positive. So that was a huge shift as well. So a lot of these things are predicated on your budget is a statutory percentage in a lot of different areas, and then you shore up at the end, and then that ends up meaning when you didn't spend a lot of your categorical money, those numbers come down. Also, because our 3% reserve district wide is based on our budget as well. Once we have our actuals, obviously we didn't spend a lot of our COVID money, which reduced our 3% reserve by close to $100,000 as well. So there's like some really big chunks of money that created a really large number. And part of it is that we still have not completed our settlement agreement. I shouldn't say that, take that back. We have completed our settlement agreement with our certificated staff and another agenda item coming up. But because that is going to be reflected in the 22-23 year, you don't see those in the 21-22 year we had set aside. So just a little heads up on, it looks a little different this year. Oh no, and I didn't catch that. So next slide, please, George. That should be 21-22, not 20-21. I apologize for the heading. That being said, we did receive roughly $6 million in COVID relief funding under, I want to say 11 different resource codes and buckets. And the way that it was divvied out, we have spent roughly $2.5 million, and the rest will be deferred into over the next 3 years, some 2, some 3 years, depending on when a lot of these programs will run out. Next slide, George. Just some other, we continue to talk about this. PERS and STIRS contributions continue to increase, and there's no end. I mean, well, they're projected in our 22-23 budget. Every year the governor talks about some relief in that area. In the current budget, we did think that there might be some relief for 22-23, but there was not. The flip side of that is they put a lot of money in the augmentation and in the COLA, which is the governor's way of saying that'll help fix your problem. And the district, one of the big things is that if the state does buy down the debt for both PERS and STIRS, that could relieve, which they've done before, and then it brings down the statutory percentage that we have for PERS and STIRS. Next slide, George. Just some of our ending fund balances that you'll see that make up that it's a rather large, about $1.6 million. The expanded learning opportunities, or ELOP, as we like to call it, is about roughly $400,000. And that's our plan on spending for our interventions, after school, summer school, intersessions. Our educated effectiveness grant, $430,000. Jessica has written a beautiful plan that the board has adopted, and that spending plan will begin in 22-23. So, and that is 3 years. 3 years, okay, that we have to spend that money. So we do have that money earmarked to spend over the next 3 years. So there's no intent to spend that all in the first year. Special ed funding, we received a bump in AB 602 funding at the end of the year. We also did not have placements and any non-public sites that were unbeknownst to us. So we did have a savings there, and we received additional funding through the preschool program, the special ed preschool program, I should say. And that funding was given at the very tail end of 21-22, and we are working with student services on how those monies will be spent in the next coming years. In the past, that funding had come in through the general fund. It was unrestricted. It could be used for anything. It's generated by not the number of preschool SDC students that we service, but the number of preschool SDC or preschool students that have services in our district area that may not belong to our program, but they do receive services. And so it's a per student allocation. Our donation accounts, roughly 154,000. That's a combination of multiple different things, donations from our home and school clubs, donations from our outside partners. Those just roll over into the next year unused. They stay within the programs that they were initially donated to, and kind of goes into that area. Mental health funds, this is another derivative of special education funding. We have $120,000 reserve in that account. We are trying to kind of hold that back from spending because there is no time limit on these particular funds, and they can be used to extend programs that we've created now using COVID relief funding. And so there's intention as to why we do have an ending balance there. And lottery funds is lottery received every year. These are restricted. There are some big winners. So in the state of California over this last year, so we are going to get a boost in 22-23 for our lottery funding, which is good news for our school sites. Next slide, George. All right, Governmental Accounting Standards Board, GASB 68. This is our PERS and STRS on behalf. Every year we have to do a journal entry that is to book into our accounts a offset to our PERS and STRS obligations. And so really what this is that we have a budget of $962,000 in our revenue, and then we do a corresponding journal to expend that out in what is called the STRS on behalf payment. It is an accounting entry. There are no actual funds associated with this. However, it does inflate our budget by $1 million because you have to book the revenue and you have to book the expense on an accounting procedure. You also have to use that with your 3% set aside and your routine restricted maintenance program. So some of these things, the PERS and STRS one, there's been a lot of talk in legislation. We've done a lot of advocacy to have that taken out as part of what would be a set aside. Because even for a district our size, $1 million can make a huge difference. But you take a district as big as, say, Pajaro or City Schools, then you really are looking at an inflated amount of money over an accounting entry. Okay, and so next slide, George. Our enrollment is down, which in and of itself brings our ADA down. And so those are different things that we will shore up when I present first interim to you, and we'll have more information. We'll have a few more months under our belt to get an accurate look at where we're at on that. And the good news is that the governor has done ADA mitigation in the out years, and that's a rolling 3-year average. So it will still be a decline for us. It just lessens the blow on a slow roll on our declining enrollment effect on our revenue long-term. So, and there is talk, the governor did make this mitigation, but there is nothing in the statute that this is ongoing. And so there are some concerns that if a new governor comes in or this governor has a change of heart in the out years, there will be a change. And so it'd be interesting to see as we move along over the next few years. And as the state of California itself is predicting large decreases in both enrollment and ADA. It's interesting, I had a great conversation with my peers today in regards to ADA, to enrollment, and to that mitigation against helping districts fight their loss of revenue. We still have the students, to serve. We have, 1,657 students roughly. Even if there's 100 kids a day out sick, the teacher still comes to school, the bus driver still comes to school, everybody still comes to school, but we don't receive funding for those 100 children. So, and I've said this before, we're one of 6 states in the country that fund on ADA and not enrollment. And it's something that our legislation feels very passionate about not changing. And so, as a side note, Jessica is the president of our AXA charter, and I, by association, became the vice president of legislative action for our AXA charter. And we will be down there in Sacramento for Legislative Action Day and advocate for some of these changes. So I'm pretty excited about that. It's kind of a side note. And looking ahead, hopefully, next slide, George. Thank you. A reduction to PERS and STRS contributions, additional COVID state relief funding, additional state funding in special ed, salary adjustments based on settlement agreements and enrollment. All these things we'll be looking at and taking into account as we look at our out years and our multi-year projections. And then our next slide, which I love to put in a good quote: success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Winston Churchill. So that is my presentation for unaudited actuals. And the board has any questions?
Questions from the board? Yeah.
Yeah.
No big surprises. Always appreciate that. Thank you. I don't have anything else. All right. Any questions in the audience? Yeah.
Probably just not understanding correctly, and I don't. When you follow this stuff, but I think it was, you said about 6 million and from 11 sources. But that was the COVID money. Is that, if it's not spent over 2 years, does it disappear as well, or not? Is it kind of conditionally?
Yes, there is a time limit. Some of them expired in 22, June 30th, 22, 23, and 24. And if the district does not spend in compliance, then the state does take it back and then reallocate it to districts that did spend all their money.
And are you settled with that being a factor in the budgets, like that 725, whatever, it's also including all that extra money that's coming in and out of going everywhere?
Yeah. It's really difficult sometimes because we have other federal money that we receive, Title I, Title II, Title III, 4s and 5s, all of our federal monies, and all of them have spending restrictions, and you have to spend them within 18-month period, and all of those things take into account. So not only are we, looking at our normal spending, then we have all this additional spending that still follows the same requirements, except we have a very short time period to spend it. So that was the ELOT money in general, was that a big topic, like I said, because districts are receiving a large amount of money. We're predicted to get over $700,000 in 22-23 to run the program, which is fantastic. However, there's time limits on it. And so you can create great comprehensive programs because our staff is amazing at that, but then 1 year later you have to take them away. Yeah, that's the unfortunate part of this.
Thank you.
Any other questions in person? Any questions on the email on this issue?
Oh, there is another question, but this is for the next agenda item. I apologize.
Oh.
And then nope, that's it.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion then to approve the unaudited actuals, financial reports? I'll make a motion. All right. I'll second. I'm tired of asking. I always get a second, but thank you. All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Yay.
Thank you kindly.
Thank you, board.
Can we take just a short break?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, why don't we take a 3 to 5 minute recess? Okay.
I left my ice pack in my classroom.
We have some here.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
was
yeah, we
listening
do,
and
yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm done for the day. I will bring you some.
Sorry, I have been texting a little bit. My kids are home alone, so it's kind of stressful.
I
Can't little recess whenever George gives me the green light. The thumbs are up. Okay, thank you, George. Great idea to take a brief recess. So we'll come back onto the agenda though, and we're on item 8C. Consider approval for salary adjustment for administrative classified management and classified confidential employees. And that would be Michelle.
Yes, it's me again. Thank you, board. As you have seen in prior meetings, we presented both a classified CSEA and certificated SEA, what are known as AB 1200s. They are the requirement that we produce this document to assure that the district can provide the increase, the dollar amount increase that comes with what the settlement agreement entails. And so I fill out what is called an AB 1200, which is attached in this docket. And it looks at where we are, how much it's going to cost, and then anything that's what else has been part of the agreement is added into the explanation columns. Because our group here, administration and confidentials, are not a bargaining unit. It's a little bit different. We don't have a TA. We don't have anything like that. We have what's commonly referred to as a Me Too. But there's no TA involved. There's no tentative agreement. We don't have an association to take it out to. It's more of a conversation between the superintendent and his administrative staff on what that compensation package would look like. And so this is the compensation package that we've presented for certificated staff. And then when we meet again with SEA, we have a meeting next week set on the books to complete the final negotiations for their second part of their increase. It will look like this too. So and then part of what you'll see on page 1, I believe it's 78 of the docket. Nope, 179 of the docket is where you'll find where it's broken out between restricted and unrestricted. In the prior iterations of the AB 1200, column 3, which has other revisions, is the impact of what we've already given. So both for certificate and classified, you put that impact there, and in column 2 is the impact for who the AB 1200 is based on. And then they take that into account they combine that all together to show that, so that we can show to the County Office of Education that we can provide all 3 groups with this compensation package. Typically, in a year when all the compensation packages were kind of fall in line and go to the same board meeting, you would see the same document 3 different times for the 3 different groups with the 3 different amounts moved around. It's just a little bit different because we're bringing them to 3 different board meetings. And so with that, I ask the board to approve the AB 1200. Oh, I should add that Superintendent Turnbull has already received our letter from the County Office of Education from Dr. Sabah and Leanne Reyes that we can afford our raise and get the thumbs up.
All right, questions from the board? Does the raise change the base salary of these positions?
Just like it would any position.
Oh, yeah. What would you, so when you say the base salary, so like if you look at our salary scale, right?
Our schedule.
Schedule, thank you. So then for all of our positions, they start at a number that is X% higher as a result of this.
Yeah, correct. Just like the administrative, both classified and certificated there, because there are particular rules with PERS and STRS. You cannot commingle classified and certificated employees on the same salary schedule. And that's why we do have multiple salary schedules for our administrative staff, because they can't be together for retirement purposes, which I don't want to impede on anyone's retirement. And so just like any of our salary schedules, they start at, step 1, column 5. You change it by 3%, and then you change it by 12%, and then it's a salary schedule, and it's based on same. It's an increment change, just like a classified and certificated schedules are, like 5% between steps and 2% or so. However, they're all a little bit different, but it follows the same concept basically.
And is that true if just say that person that's filling it gets the raise, but then they go somewhere else, and then somebody new takes their place? Does that new person start at on that same scale, or does the scale change when it's a new position?
No, because it's an adopted salary schedule like any. So once the salary schedule has been updated, it is our new current salary schedule until a new compensation package is brought into effect. So when we negotiate for 23 to 24, it's so weird to say, then it'd be the same process all over again. So
or new hires.
No, because it's ours, it's a salary schedule, like the teachers have a salary schedule and classified as salary schedule. The management confidential, they all have salary schedules the same way. Once the salary schedule has been updated with the improved increases, it becomes the salary schedule. And then we have steps and columns on our schedules too. So you could bring in a new person on step 1, or you could bring a new person on step 6, depending on what their background and what their expertise was, just like you could like classified or a certificated teacher where you bring them in anywhere from 1 to 14 years based on their history.
But the numbers of the steps are changed, right? That's what we're voting.
Well, what you're not voting on a salary schedule, you're voting
Oh,
on
okay.
the salary increase.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Thank
the,
you.
yes,
Good
yeah.
question.
No, it is
Yeah.
very good clarification because it is another topic that was brought up today that we did talk about. PERS and STRS are very particular, like we have to have all of our salary schedules for any person that works in the district has to be posted on our website, and they have to be updated. And that goes really to someone's retirement, because STRS can come in or PERS can come in and say, I need 5 years worth of salary schedules that have been posted publicly, so that we can validate pre-retirement. And it's the same rules that we follow.
And have we had this big of a rate, an increase? Like when was the last time, recently, or this kind of?
Well, well, yes, for any group, this is a large increase. Yes, the district has never given an increase this large to any group.
And then none of these positions are part of the union, right? So,
No.
so this is the way that we reward these positions.
Yes, they're when the district talks about when we go into negotiations with bargaining units, we talk about what is a 1% district wide, and a 1% district wide includes our represented and unrepresented units. And that's what we are considered an unrepresented unit. And so confidential employees, the OT, which is on a licensed professional schedule, is considered part of this because they're not on a teacher salary schedule. And so they are within this schedule. It varies because we aren't a union and we don't have a tentative agreement. So it just looks slightly different. So the norm is that management associations just do what everybody else does.
But this, like you're saying, this is our mechanism for providing raises so that it's equal to all.
Yes.
All staff members.
Yeah. And legally we have to. The board does have, even though we are unrepresented, the board still has to approve it. Yeah.
Any other questions from the team?
Just on that comment, you said that county office of education, what was it that they did? A letter that suggested not to get raises?
Oh, no. They sent a letter to Scott or Superintendent Turble to let him know that they've reviewed our AB 1200, because I'm required by law to submit this 10 days before the board meeting. And they've already completed their review, and that they do agree that we can, yes, give the compensation package.
Well, good.
We can afford it, yes.
78 on E, it says will increase deficit spending,
Yes.
but not really putting us in the deep hole. Okay.
No, we have our ending fund
For
balance.
some reason, okay, good. I'm glad I misunderstood.
And historically, we always group these positions together to kind of do this Me Too raise. Look at some of the. We group these together. This is a group.
Yes, we are a group. Yes,
Okay.
we are one group of administrators and confidentials. Yeah.
So one group of unrepresented employees, because anyone who is unrepresented
Is stuck in,
is
in this
without a
group.
mechanism
Yes.
for potentially getting.
Yeah. There are certain things, and I know you new to the board as far as the whole process goes. Classified management and classified confidentials, which because confidentials in of nature wouldn't be certificated, they follow a CSCA's contract to a certain extent, like longevity increases, and if there was a grievance or something like that, they have that contract to fall back on. Certificated administrators such as principals and directors fall back on the SCA certificated contract, because most of them have come from a teaching position. And so typically that would fall under there. Scott, Jessica, and I are under a contract. And so we don't really fall back on anybody but ourselves. So we're a little bit different, but so there's it's a very strange area because it's considered an unrepresented group. And so we don't have a collective bargaining agreement. There isn't anything like that exists for us.
follow-up questions? Any questions from the audience? Any email questions? We did have an email question.
We did have one email question and it does say, hi, President of the Board. One, who makes up the classified confidential employees? Please clarify. Thank you, and I'll take my answer online. I'm happy to answer that. We have two classified confidential positions. That is my administrative assistant and Dr. Kieran's administrative assistant. They are considered confidential positions.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so we've done all of our questions. Do I have a motion to approve the salary adjustment?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes.
I know you guys work hard out there. So, you're working, you're not throwing darts. So.
No.
Yeah, no, you're always on the move. So thank you.
Well, you know, and it is an entire whole team.
Yes.
Right.
And fingers crossed, we will be bringing our last AB 1200 to you at the next board meeting, and we will have this process completed for a little while.
Amazing. Multi-year is amazing.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna keep us rolling to item 8D, consider approval of contract with Nicole Anderson and Associates.
So back at the beginning of the 2021 school year, our district really dove in to go on an equity journey. Although I think our, the staff and teachers in our district have always been guided by equity. After the murder of George Floyd, we were especially spurred as a district and went into action to make our district even more inclusive and even more equity driven. And as part of that work, we contracted with Nicole Anderson and Associates. Some of her associates have been Dr. Shelley Holt, who have been instrumental in our equity work, as well as Deborah Keys Wright. And so when we dove into that work, we really wanted to do it on 3 levels. We wanted to make sure that our administrative team had access to that learning and continuous growth in the area of equity. We wanted to make sure that this governance team had an opportunity to work in that capacity. And then we formed a racial justice task force, which was instrumental in moving our district forward in this area. So we want to continue that work with Nicole Anderson and her team. And specifically, we want to continue to work with the ADCO team. We want to continue with this governance team, especially as we bring on new members and reform our district and board culture. And also with the racial justice task force, especially the subcommittees as they dive into the specificity of their work. And then as far as the actual school part, last year we started with an equity walk at New Brighton Middle School. And we want to continue those equity walks at the rest of our schools this year. So that's a very short summary of how Nicole Anderson and her team have supported our equity journey these past 2 years. And this contract would allow us to continue our work with her this year.
Great. Questions from the team?
Question, if meeting were to be moved on Zoom, would it be cheaper?
Yeah, she does allow for that for sure. And some of them are already scheduled as Zoom. So yes, short answer, yes.
So that, for example, where we see daily rates.
That would be for an in-person visit. So that's the top number. Because it includes travel and prep time.
And so how would that be decided if a meeting is through Zoom or in person?
How would it be decided?
Yeah.
Based on availability, based on if there were COVID issues, that sort of thing.
But what if we wanted to try to reduce the rates, basically? Would that be a consideration?
I would recommend against that because I think that the work has been much more powerful when we've been able to be in person. I think we can say that across almost from everything from distance learning all the way throughout.
I'm just looking at the, so I'm on page 192, the proposal for the RJTF facilitation. So right, that's facilitating the racial justice task force
Subcommittees.
and subcommittees. If that team did, for whatever reason, like, feel safer or have more flexibility, if they do more of that work virtually, if we do enter into this proposal as agreed, are we like Phil was saying, are we stuck at, are we fully set at that price or is it?
No,
adjustable,
this is
right?
a not to exceed.
This
So
is a not-
to
perfect.
exceed 64,000.
Perfect, okay,
Which usually means the end price will be low.
because, you know, as we all well know, you can't always predict whether we're able to do
Oh,
everything
yeah,
in person
no,
and,
absolutely.
and,
And she's, her and her team have been very flexible about that.
yeah, okay, that's good to know.
Are any of the activities require traveling or staying in renting a facility, or are they?
They require her travel and her team's travel, but not renting a facility. We do all here. in-house.
Do it here?
Yeah.
Any other questions? I mean, just a comment from me, I have found our work with her to be powerful and I'm really optimistic and hopeful that the task force continues to grow and do the work. I think from a governance team perspective, anticipating change on this team in December and January and bringing some new folks on, it's super important that we do the governance, you know, the good beginnings, team building, basics of governance, which I see baked into her work with us. So I'm just interested in how she can help us find the balance between, you know, the focus here is on the equity work, but it's so important, as we all know, right, bringing in new folks who aren't as familiar with board practices, we all learn from each other, so there's that really key sort of starting point of the governance work before you want to do it through the lens of equity, but you need you know, we need the common language, exactly, so I personally hope that that's built in a really strong foundational way before we get too deep into, for example, updating an equity policy, et cetera. I know that's part of her work. So those are my 18 cents on that. That makes sense. It's getting late. Okay.
Yeah,
I
I think it's a good investment.
Yes. Any questions from the audience on this item?
Not on the item, just for like what is governance team? Is that like this whole group?
Yeah, it's the board and then the administration that sorts it.
All right, the ADCO would be just you guys, right?
No, that's every administrator in the district. So whether that's principals, student services, that's all the administrators together.
Thank you.
And just a question, I guess we're not bringing her into work with teachers, right? The racial justice task force is like a select group of teachers, is that?
It's teachers, it's classified staff members, it's parents. We had a core group and we're really looking to add to that now that we've done some of the basic work. And then this work, of course, is meant to trickle all the way through and across the system because our administrators are being trained and take that back out to the work with their staffs.
Right. Do we have any questions on email on this one?
We do not.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the contract with Nicole Anderson and Associates?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second? Second, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Right, next item is consider approval of the agenda outline and date for the LCAP Community Forum.
So this is an item we try to get well ahead on for planning purposes. The LCAP Community Forum is a structure that I inherited when I came over 6 years ago that I think was a really good decision by the governance team at that time to make sure that there's at least one opportunity regularly scheduled for all members of the public to have access to district administrators, to get an overview of the district and overview of different departments, overview of different offerings and opportunities in the district, and to be able to engage with them and ask questions. And so as the years have gone on, we've kind of formatted that. Of course, had COVID and had to do some of it on Zoom before, but when it's in person, we've kind of adopted the format of a brief presentation on the state of the district, so to speak, and then breakout tables in groups that include the ones listed there, such as child nutrition, facilities and budget, curriculum, safe school environments, enrichment and intervention, but not limited to those. So this is just a broad outline, and we will continue to firm that up as we get closer to the date. So the purpose tonight is not the definitive outline or the definitive agenda, but a broad outline of what would happen that night and to approve the actual date. And then in conjunction with the LCAP Community Forum, we have traditionally done an LCAP community forum survey right in advance of that, and that helps inform our work and what to present on and possible questions. And is a nice road on ramp onto the work to building the next year's LCAP.
Questions or comments from the board on this?
Good topics here.
Yeah. I really appreciate the survey. It feels like every year the survey grows and really, when I get to take it as a parent, I feel like it's really thoughtfully worded and I really appreciate the type of information we're trying to get. And then the responsiveness to the survey is also incredible in terms of shaping what happens on this evening, but also in terms of when people, you're always incredible at responding to specific questions that people have. So I'm really glad we're able to continue doing this. And I also appreciate generally, there's really a focus on being really accessible, not just in how it is, the location. I mean, I think usually we provide, childcare if needed, and just making sure the language that's used is language that's understandable for folks who aren't fully always immersed in education lingo. So I think it's a great tradition and I'm excited about it. Any questions from the audience on the LCAP Community Forum in February? Save the date, February 8th, 2023 at 6:30. All right, any emails on this one?
No,
Okay.
I do have an email, but it is just an email.
Like a general
Yeah,
comment
general
that's not connected to.
Yeah. So it's an email from a member of the audience that would just like to thank us all for this evening.
Well, that's okay.
Yes, so we could apply that to any agenda item.
Okay, thank you. Thank you out there. Okay, done our questions. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda outline and date? All right, do I have a second? Thank you. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Any opposed? What'd I miss?
Well, nothing is just.
It's almost 9. Okay, we got all in favor. Any opposed? No, Linda's got it. Linda's got us on track. Thank you, Linda. We're getting there. Our last action.
Hours, right?
Yeah, our last action item is to consider approval with the second reading of our Board of Trustees Governance Handbook.
Excellent. So again, another item that was already in place when I got here and just tried to carry on the tradition of annually updating this handbook so that it continually improves and serves as a legacy for future boards to be able to guide their work. So at the last board meeting, we took a look at the existing governance handbook and some suggestions were made. And there's a list of changes that were made based on that input. The new district motto the new district logo with the district motto was added. The board member list was obviously updated on the cover. Table of contents was updated to reflect changes. The updated mission statement and commitments were added to page 2 of the handbook. Board communication for media and other agencies on page 7 was separated out and language was updated. Board communication for public on page 8 was separated out and the language was updated. A new section on page 9 was added for social media use by board members. And obviously the signature page was updated to match the current board on page 10. So with those changes, I bring forward the revised Board of Trustees Governance Handbook for your consideration for approval.
Questions and comments?
I think on page 8 of the document, the first section, board communication between board and public, there's a quotation mark at the very end of that section. There's no beginning.
Okay, you can take that off. Thank you for spotting that.
Ah, you're
You're awesome. Yes, that just needs to be deleted. Thank you. Any others?
Oh, it looks all
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Thank you for
Yeah.
making all of these updates.
Thanks for the input.
Yeah.
What page was that?
It's page 8 of the.
8 of the handbook. Okay, got it. Thank you.
First
Okay.
box.
All right. Any questions or comments from the audience on our board governance handbook?
One thing I like to comment, well, I added the social media at the end there because with the Brown Act, I mean, it's getting very involved with the social media and, posting on Facebook, liking, which could be a serial meeting. It's getting really weird with that. So that's why I, just added that. But I'm going through this booklet, there's a lot of old language in there from past board members. And it's live, and as the new trustees come on, change the language, put something in there, make suggestions. So it's just, I just want you to know that that's the wording is not set in stone, because I looked through it, I go, God, this was mentioned like in 2004 or something like that, So, anyways, I just want to make that comment.
Good one. Yeah, and I mean, adding on to that, I think we'll definitely look at it again, because we're anticipating new team members coming in soon, so it isn't something that needs to wait until next October, right? So with that, we didn't have any questions from the audience. We don't have any emails on this. Do I have a motion to approve the handbook as it is now? All right. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, motion passes. Correspondence, I do not personally have any correspondence to report. Does anyone else? No? Okay. Future agenda items, you can ask for something. The trustees can request these now if you have any you want to request. Otherwise, you're always welcome to email us. Anyone have one now?
I'll email you.
Thank you.
I got enough.
And then
Yep, and I don't discuss another one. So.
do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that one.
Oh, there you go.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. We are adjourned at 9:04 p.m. You guys are awesome.